Hello everybody, Buddy with Midland, Texas. Got a video today I think you're going to find super interesting and some new news. I recently contacted or reported DHS, Department of Homeland Security, the agents that I had talked to in 2019 because I suspect that they may have been involved in obstruction of justice and tampering with evidence and capital murders, assisting with the human trafficking ring that I was trying to report. And that's what this video is going to talk about here. And so the Facebook post that I did yesterday, which just lays it out one by one, and that's what I'll go off of to show you here, will explain this better here. What I did, I shared this video that I made on July 17, 2019, and that video's here down here. It's called Met with Homeland and Now They're Pouring Concrete. Okay, and what had happened was 2 weeks earlier, on July 2nd, 2019, I met Homeland Security at the Home Depot store, and I got over there, and I thought, I thought they were good police or good law enforcement. We're finally going to solve these multiple murders, stop this human trafficking ring, and DHS is supposed to stop human trafficking, right? They're the right people to go to, right? And so I was kind of excited. Finally, we're going to, all this, years of obstruction of justice, and people trying to terrorize me into selling my home, and all the other crimes that have gone on. Anyway, I get over there, the DHS agent Paul, he surprised me, and he said, "I don't see why you don't sell that home if you're living under the threat of death." And it just caught me off guard. I couldn't believe that. That's what the criminals are wanting, That's what the crime ring, the murderous human trafficking ring that's killing these little girls that want to prostitute, that's what they want. They want me to move so they can cover up these murders and these crimes, I sit there and explain the HobZack to him, how, that a crime ring such as this, they can't work with corrupt law enforcement that looks the other way while they commit crimes against a homeowner trying to get them to sell their property or any kind of property. It could be an oil well. It was like you were all a gang. I went to grade school with a dirty cop. I tell you what, I want to buy his oil wells. Okay, and so you break into his house, you threaten his death, you threaten his life. He goes to the police, and y'all guys look the other way while we threaten his life, and then other people in the crime ring come go, "I don't know why you won't sell them oil wells to us," and they're trying to gain property by terrorism. It's a violation of HobZack, carries 20 years in prison. Okay. Anyway, that's what happened on that day. And then 2 weeks later, I get home. They're digging. I showed them that we went behind Home Depot, right here where this picture is, right there. And I showed them where I believe the human trafficking murder tunnel was at. The tunnel that was used to go to the oil show parties, and where the young girl was murdered at, where her dead body was, carried out that tunnel. I believe it was. I believe there may be DNA evidence inside that tunnel, but it looks like now that tunnel's filled with concrete. And the question was asked if these Department of Homeland Security is connected with filling up that concrete, tampering with evidence in a capital murder, human trafficking murder, and then obstruction of justice in capital murders. And so that's a question. It's a fair question, right? We got the remains of a dead girl found outside of Midland. I think it's the girl that Angie told me was murdered at that oil show party in 2010. And so these are very fair questions, and this needs to be investigated to the fullest. Okay, so let's go through the Facebook post here. I first said on January 17, 2019, concrete was being poured behind the Home Depot store in Midland, Texas. And 2 weeks before that, I was there with Homeland Security and showing them where I believed the tunnel was going from there to my home and used by people at the underground parties, at the oil show parties. I believe this tunnel was used by the young girl that had been murdered underground at the 2010 oil show party, which my friend Angie McGee Hurley had told me about. This young girl didn't want to be prostituted out, so they killed her. The question has been asked if some oil company executives asked then Secretary of Energy Rick Perry and then Secretary of Homeland Security Kevin McClellan for help in covering up this oil field sex party murder. They both resigned 3 months after I made that video. That's going to be part of this. And what you can see, an oil show party would, it's put on by wealthy oil men. And so, I'm suspecting there's multi-billion-dollar oil companies executives, and they don't want anybody to know that a girl was murdered underground at a secret underground facility where they was having an oil show party. So maybe they're leaning on people like the Secretary of Energy and the Secretary of Homeland saying, let's cover up this murder. Y'all need to pour concrete or whatever, right? Let's terrorize Mr. Webb and into selling his home, and let's pour concrete, and let's look the other way while criminals break in his home and threaten his life, and so that's a very valid question if that's what's going on. If people, that were involved in these underground also party murders have been leaning, bribing public officials, to help them cover up these murders. I showed DHS proof that somebody shot me from under my home. Remember, I have absolute proof I wasn't shot with my gun. And multiple people documented saying that tunnels underground homes here, along with Google Maps where you can see it. It's easy to see there was a murder tunnel here, right? I mean, that's real easy to see. And then, one woman, Layla O'Brien, she tells me I worked on that project. We finished it in 1987, had a budget of $7.35 million. We called it the Safe House Project. This was an official job. It was a construction project, right? She believed the Bushes put it in, and the Bushes are from Midland. That would be as in President Bushes. And at the time, George H.W. Bush was Vice President of the United States, and they're from Midland, okay? Little town of Midland, okay? And so here, I'm going to show you a Google Map picture and a print screen on this first one and this one, and it's just showing behind my house. This is where I was ambushed and shot with my phone lines cut. Burglar alarms going off in the attic, okay? Here's where it's believed one of the 4 underground homes is at, okay? I'm going to show you that. I'm shot right here, okay? It's 3802 Fair Circle, Midland, Texas. And this map comes from Google Earth Historical Maps. It's from 2011. Y'all could go look it up right now if you wanted to find it. And look behind the Home Depot store right here. You can see where the ground was cut. It's real easy to see. And you project it out, it goes straight to my house. Okay, and I believe the people at the wholesale party were parking in front of that parking lot, going underground here, coming via this tunnel right here. And I'm suspecting this tunnel now has concrete in it. And that's what I was asking a while ago. That's where I believe that this young girl was murdered at, that Angie told me about in 2010, and they probably carried her body. She probably walked in here and her dead body was carried out that tunnel. So it might have DNA evidence in there, but I'm guessing now that it has concrete in there, and I'm also guessing that DHS is part of the reason it has concrete in there. Obstruction of justice in capital murder, okay? And plus the other crimes here. All right. And that's a fair question to ask. A Home Depot clerk told me, if you happen to see a lot of cars in the parking lot late at night, then it's because we're stalking. I hadn't asked that and thought about it, but it sounded like a clue. A party for an international oil show would need a lot of parking and excuse, right? Don't everybody agree with that? Here's the 50,000 foot view. And once again, we're going to show my house where I was crippled for life, shot and left for dead, almost died. The last homeowner did die here. Here's where the underground homes believed. Here's where the tunnel was cut, right? Here's the Midland Home Depot. And here's a large parking lot. And she just happens to tell me, if you happen to see a lot of cars in the parking lot late at night, it's because we're stalking. Do you think maybe if we happen to see a lot of cars in the parking lot late at nights because they're having an underground party right here and they're raping and murdering little girls? I think that's probably more, what we're saying, right? Okay. Let's go on to my next one. And then in 2013, okay, so in 2010 was when Angie, my friend, told me about the young girl being murdered. I tried to get her to report that murder, and she was afraid and said high-level police were at the party. And she was leaving my home in 5 minutes at the party. Okay, I know that because we was talking on the phone, so I believe she drove around, parked in the Home Depot parking lot. You know what the excuse was? Oh, we're stalking, right? So she was parked there, went in there somewhere underground, come back via that tunnel, was in that underground home. That's why she's a witness. And there's many other witnesses, because you can bet all them other girls that didn't want to prostitute, they didn't want to say anything because they didn't want to wake up dead, right? Because these are killers. These human traffickers are killers. I mean, they got a choice: do it or die. You prostitute yourself or you're going to be murdered. And there was high-level police there, so who are you going to call? And so anyway, in 2013, the remains of a 14 to 21-year-old girl was found. I wonder who carried her dead body out of the murder tunnel. maybe some DNA evidence is in there, you know? Why don't we just go look? Well, I bet you it has concrete in it now, right? And so somebody tampered with evidence 2 weeks after I showed Department of Homeland Security where I believe the human trafficking murder tunnel was at. This is a current Crime Stoppers. I probably sent almost 100 emails to the Texas Rangers and the Sheriff's Department concerning this murder right here and these crimes at this house. I've got one reply back from Sheriff Kleiner saying he was sending it to the investigative team. I haven't got a single question, you know. I mean, this question is if maybe there's some more cover-up of capital murders going on by other police officers, you know. And, you know, are they trying to solve this capital murder or are they trying to cover up capital murders? You know, that's a very fair question. Mike Lawhon, the young previous owner of my home, died the week before the 2008 oil show started. Let that sink in the backyards of underground facility, okay? And with the local newspaper posting 2 death notices for him. The first one said he died in Fort Worth, and the second one said he died at his residence here in Midland. That confirmed what a neighbor told me twice. Marilyn Deluge told me that Mike died at this home, and that told me that somebody else died here before him, okay? And I'm showing you the Odessa American print screens. You can go do it right now. Look, this is the previous owner of my home, 27 years old. Posted on October 12, 2008, they said he died in Fort Worth. And then 4 days later, they changed their minds and decided to post another one and say he died at his residence, you know. Well, you know, they don't even, you know, here, obviously, you know, there's conflict in information of where he died at. And the neighbor told me he died here. So I believe he was killed here by the same people because of the old show, and he was taken to Fort Worth, you know. That's another capital murder, and that'd be another reason to pour concrete in the human trafficking murder tunnel. Aaron Packaholder asked me if I knew the names of the 4 people who had been murdered, died in my home. Let that sink in. 4 people, okay? This guy writes me on Facebook. He says, I'm well aware of the many corruption accusations against the Midland Police Department. I'm not sure it's secret police as much as just pure criminal activity by police. But if I can ask, there are 4 people who were murdered, died in your house. What are their names? Well, I didn't know their names, right? You know, obviously, Aaron Packelhofer knows the names of the 4 people murdered, died in my house. But let that sink in. Do you think the underground facility in the backyard where they're hosting also parties, you know, was connected to that? Of course it was. Was the little girl part of that count? Probably so. And was that human trafficking murder tunnel where she got there from? Is that evidence? Absolutely. Did somebody try to obstruct justice and tamper with evidence by pouring concrete? You can see why I would report that DHS agent, because if he did it once, he's probably done it 100 times. There might be all kinds of little girls murdered that we don't know about. You know, who knows how many good citizens went to them with evidence and they buried it and poured concrete. Can you see why somebody would want concrete poured in the human trafficking murder tunnel? Some of these would be death penalty cases. And that's what I'm showing you. Here's a guy that went missing 3 months before the last homeowner died, Rini Escobar Sanchez. Maybe this guy is one of them people that Aaron Packelholder asked me about. He said that 4 people died in my home. Here's Mike Lawhon right here, his obituary. At 20, left 2 boys. He dies the week before the 2008 oil show started. And a print screen where his friends were saying that he was telling them that somebody was breaking his house before he died. Same crimes I reported before I was, ambushed and shot in my home and my phone lines cut. That's why I'm crawling out right there. They cut my phone lines and then shot me. They tried to kill me in my own home. And here's the little girl right here, 14 to 21 years old. Angie told me about a young girl being murdered at an oil show party I know was going on 5 minutes from my home, obviously in the underground facilities that multiple people have said was there, right? We got Joe Lozano running for sheriff last year, and I secretly recorded him telling me that these underground homes was the hideout for the late Sheriff Gary Painter. And I suspect that might be one of the high-level police that Angie was afraid of when she didn't want to report that murder, right? And so just imagine this little girl at this party. Who can she go to with these corrupt police there? And it's like, you're going to prostitute or we're going to kill you. And what are you going to do about it? Are you going to call News West 9, CBS 7? Ha, ha, ha. You think they're good? You think they care about little girls being murdered in our community? You think they care about one homeowner after another homeowner being killed here? No, they don't care about that. You know, that's proven already. 2 weeks after showing DHS where a murder tunnel was located that was used to move a human trafficking victim, and the ground was dug up and concrete was poured, and that's suspected to be moving that little girl, and I believe that's true. We'll find that out. That would be tampering with evidence in a capital murder. And I just want to show you here, this I actually got it on video, the concrete coming out of the truck. I was back here with Homeland 2 weeks before that, and I want to show you this overview. I showed you there where this tunnel was at, right, where we believe the tunnel's at. But Ricky Ronaldo says, I used to live in your house. Me and my brother used to go in the tunnels under it when we lived there. There was one more documented witnesses. Of course, that's what was going on. Okay. Here's my next one. I got the feeling the DHS agent was trying to talk me into selling my home. Isn't that how you read this? And I'm going to let you read this. These text messages are from the same day that I showed them where I believe the human trafficking murder tunnel was located, 2 weeks before concrete was poured. I actually sent copies of this text message right here with Paul with Homeland. I sent this to the office of the U.S. Inspector General when I reported these DHS agents for suspicion that they're obstructing justice in capital murder, human trafficking murders, and their and possible involvement in tampering with evidence to cover up capital murders. The little girl, Mike Lawn, and then of course the capital attempted murder in my life. Okay, here's the text message from that day, July 2nd, 2019. We'll be headed that way. That sounds good. We're leaving just now. I'll be there in 50 minutes. Parking lot in the Home Depot, and a white Ford Explorer, black Ford F1 meet us there. That's what Paul said. We're standing outside our vehicles on the nursery side of the Home Depot. Okay. And so I meet them there, and then when I get over there, and as I told you earlier, this agent, I don't know why you don't sell your home, and I mean, what, so I'm having to explain the HobZack to him. And then that evening I get back and I send him a video. That's what this video is called, Decided to Sell My Home, because you can't imagine this, how many people have tried to talk me into selling my home while my life's being threatened, and people are breaking my house and crimes are being committed against me, and corrupt law enforcement are looking the other way and allowing the crimes. They're trying to terrorize me from the home. Violation of the HobZack. That's another reason that I turned in this DHS agent, and he admitted, this is him talking. Buddy, let's get something clear. I was not trying to talk you into selling your home today. I simply asked you why you wouldn't consider selling your home if you continue to feel threatened in there. Okay, so now we got Paul admitting to what I told you he did. He was trying to, talk me into moving, is what happened. Okay, and I've compared this to the bank being robbed, right? And the police show up with bank robbery, person shot, and when the policeman goes up to the banker and says, I don't know why you don't sell this bank if you're getting robbed. Is that absurd? Absolutely absurd. You don't sell the bank because you get robbed. You call the police so they can arrest the people that robbed the bank. That's why I got a hold of DHS, so they could arrest these human traffickers, and that is what they take care of, human traffickers that are murdering little girls that won't prostitute, And then he says, remember, our entire conversation was recorded. And that I also sent when I reported him, because I want them to get a copy of that and listen to what he said to me and what I said to him, because here is where I explained the HobZack to him that day on that recording. The HobZack states that conspiring with others to obtain property from another with his consent, induced by wrongful use or actual or threatened force, violence, or fear, is a violation which carries not more than 20 years in prison. This is often used in public corruption and racketeering cases. Now, why would a DHS agent who I just showed a murder tunnel to ask me about selling my home while under fear of death? And that's the point I'm making. And I probably had well over 100, probably maybe 1,000 people, that have asked, ordered, or suggested that I move. Many of them with insults and threats. Okay, extortion means the obtaining of property, such as my home, from another, right, with his consent, induced by wrongful use of actual or threatened force, violence, or fear. Okay, why don't you sell your home if you're under threat, right? Okay, I had sent I had provided a 3-ring binder and a flash drive to Homeland when I first met them on May 28 that contained many of the death threats that I've gotten. You know, here's one I'm going to show you. This was another guy that told me he had 2 choices: move or meet God early. But he wasn't a law enforcement officer who I'd been providing evidence to about a capital murder, right? Okay, and that's where this guy, this Joseph Meyerless, said, you need to move. I only see 2 other options. You either move or you meet God early, right? I think we can all understand what that says, right? Shannon, and maybe anyone saying he was going to kill me, but these other criminals are going to kill me, right? Shannon Jeter told me, buddy, cops can kill you and get away with it. Stop. That's insinuating it was cops involved in the murder attempt, and I think it was. And once again, we see the same thing about selling my home or I'll be murdered. If it should be a crime to conspire with others to terrorize homeowners into selling their property, it is. It's called the HobZack, right? That's what I'm going. It should be a crime to terrorize, you know. And here, buddy, cops can kill you and get away with it. You need to stop publicizing their business, then go buy you another home. Well, what is their business? Is it pimping out little girls in underground oil show parties and murdering the ones that, you know, that refuse? Is that what their business is? You know, I mean, is it looking the other way when crime victims, you know, are reporting people in the attic all over the city, you know, making up lies saying nobody's reported people in the attic when that's just obviously a lie? I think we all know that the real reason the concrete was poured, right? It was to cover up the $1 million underground homes, the oil show parties, and the murder of that young girl. The question had been asked if some law enforcement has been trying to obstruct justice in this capital crime. Okay, and I'm going to show this many times. Go to maps.google.com, put in my address, 3802 Fair Circle, Midland, Texas. Switch between the map view and the satellite view. Look in my backyard. You will see a large bunker right there, okay? But you switch above ground, it can't be seen. So there's a large bunker there that can't be seen from above ground. And I got a woman recorded telling me that there are 4 3-bedroom underground homes here, buried at least 25 foot deep. She said they were having pedophile parties down there. Rhonda Denman Rogers told me of one underground home's a half block away. I believe that's one of the other 4. Gayla O'Brien said she worked on this safe house project, cost $7.35 million, finished in '87, put in by the Bushes. That's Layla, oh, by the way. Sheriff candidate Joe Lozano told me that the underground homes was a hideout for the sheriff painter, and there's more. There's other people that have documented. 2 weeks after the video was made showing concrete being poured, U.S. Congressman Mike Conaway announced that he was retiring. Come to find out, his late brother-in-law used to live across the street. This is the congressman's brother-in-law. The question had been asked if Conaway had a part in the decision to pour concrete to cover up the murder of that young girl at the 2010 underground oil show party. That would explain the timing of the surprise retirement. I spoke to him personally in 2015, and he sent me a letter advising me to contact the U.S. Inspector General, which I did over 100 times, and they would never reply back. That was back in 2015, right? And so all this time, and then 2 weeks after I get that video of concrete being poured to cover up the human trafficking murder tunnel, Conaway announces that he's retiring. Okay, come to find out his brother-in-law lived across the street. You know, I got a feeling that Conaway knows something about these tunnels, underground homes, and these murders. Okay, 3 months after the video was made showing concrete being poured, U.S. Secretary of Homeland Security Kevin McClellan and U.S. Secretary of Energy Rick Perry resigned. Rick Perry was former governor of Texas when all these murders happened and the oil show parties. The question had been asked if Perry or McClellan had a part in the decision to pour concrete to cover up the murder of that young girl at the 2010 underground oil show party. So I guess these are called what, cabinet positions, right? And can you imagine that cabinet positions might be involved in obstruction of justice or tampering with evidence in a capital murder? It's just a question. The timing is just very interesting. And since Homeland was involved, and I had showed Homeland where I believed a human trafficking murder tunnel was at, and then concrete's poured 2 weeks later, and then the Secretary of Homeland resigns 3 months later. It's very interesting thinking this guy had some part in making that decision. And then Rick Perry, former governor of Texas, right? It was the Secretary of Energy. Okay, well that you can see where multi-billion-dollar oil companies that don't want the public to find out about little girls being murdered at underground parties might lean on the Secretary of Energy. You know, and he was literally governor of Texas when all this happened in Texas, right? And so they might lean on him going, Rick, we need you to pour concrete. We don't want anybody to find out about the murder of this little girl. We're trying to cover up the murder of a child, Rick. We need your help, Rick. You know, let's pour some concrete, Rick, right? And Rick gets a hold of Kevin and says, Kevin, man, let's pour concrete. And all of a sudden, Buddy gets a video of them pouring concrete, right? Is that what happened? I think, you know, that should be national headline news. Everybody from this part of the country has heard about the wild oil show parties that were put on by wealthy oil men during the Permian Basin International Oil Show, and now we know where they're at. They were underground. One of them 4 underground homes was in my backyard. Okay, here's one print screen I grabbed off the internet. That was an old Midland Facebook group, and this guy named Chris Reed writes up. When I very first moved to Midland, working for a multi-billion-dollar oil company, I remember hearing talk of these huge secret parties. I took a print screen of that, right? I took a print screen of Jessica Lee Hadley. Says, I've been to 2,000 oil shows, and I tell you what, there's more than just that one murdered or raped because she didn't do whatever they wanted her to do. Let that sink in right here. My late friend from Haas, Victoria McKinney, she says, I know someone that was brutally raped at the show years ago. That was enough for me to stay away. And she goes on to say she no longer lives there, buddy, but moved to Snyder, I believe. The incident was approximately 16 years, maybe less. It was when I was in sales. I can't recall the details, but like I said, it got my attention. The show has corruption to the core. I've never attended because of the stories I've heard. Some were prostitutes being available for these old guys. Some were drugs. Some were violence, as I stated. Not a safe place for a lady to put herself into. Okay, that's the late Victoria, a very nice woman. Okay, Tisha Ann Wilkinson Brumley recently wrote me this. Says, I have friends that have been involved in those oil show parties. They are exactly what you say. They are underground homes. My sister used to do the oil show parties, and I got close to them before she shut them down. And so that was posted on my Facebook recently, out there in the public. And so here we're gonna go out and look out the window. I'm gonna show you how close this is. Y'all seen it from above. This is out my bedroom window right here, and I'm gonna show you. That building right there is the Home Depot, and that garage door is actually open in the store right now to the Home Depot store. So you can see here's my backyard and my fence. There's an alley, there's a dividing wall, and then there's a secluded truck unloading lane back there behind that building that you know, it's the perfect place to smuggle drugs, weapons, terrorists, humans, you know, whatever in from Mexico. We're only a few hours from Mexico. But I'm going to show you that this is where, when you're looking above, where they're pouring concrete back there. Okay, let me show you out another window. This is out my bathroom window, and what I'm going to show you here is the missing tree right there next to that telephone pole, and I pointed that out in old videos, and that's when that live tree got taken out, because on the other side of that wall, right where that missing tree is 2 side-by-side manholes, and I suspected one of them was a suspected tunnel entrance. It probably wasn't in the last year. I've got a video of them pouring concrete right there, right where them 2 side-by-side manholes are. Also down that telephone pole is a sudden link coax cable TV internet, goes into the ground. Okay, nobody knows where it goes to this day. Okay, and all the cable at the houses are fed from above ground. And Home Depot, I got multiple emails where they guaranteed me that Suddenlink doesn't go over to their building. I believe it goes in the ground, and it goes to the underground facility that's in the backyard right here, because that's where it looks like where one of the 4 underground homes is at that was used. That's probably where that little girl was murdered at. And so I think worthy of a real investigation. And we say, you know, these DHS agents, especially the one that tried to get me to move, but also I've contacted the FBI, the sheriff, police. There's multiple people that are involved, and I believe involved in this obstruction of justice and these capital murders. It's just not acceptable. I know it wouldn't be acceptable if it was your daughter, and it sure wouldn't be acceptable if it's my daughter. It's Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas. Please share this.